Hello and welcome everyone to the DSM Forward series. This series is presented by the Greater Des Moines Partnership and is part of our DSM Forward initiative. Our goal is to help business leaders connect, share, and exchange information and resources related to moving forward into the next phase of reopening. The partnership has published industry playbooks, business playbooks, FAQs, and other resources available to you on dsmpartnership.com/DSM Forward. We hope those resources, in addition to this seminar, is helpful to you. And again, DSM Forward, dsmpartnership.com/DSM Forward, as you see on your screen below. Joining us today is Drew McClellan, top dog at McClellan Marketing Group, and we're going to be talking about how to market our way out of this time we're in. From a logistics standpoint, first of all, we thank you all for joining us. If you could, go ahead, if you haven't already, mute your microphone, turn off your video to save bandwidth, and open up the chat window. This is how we're going to do Q&A. Drew's going to do a presentation for 30-35 minutes, and then we will flip it over to Q&A. And please be thinking about the questions you have for Drew this morning. A recording of the event will be available after the fact. We'll post that on our website in our blog. So with that, Drew, I'm happy to turn it over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen, and you can start sharing yours.
All right. I long for the days when you could just walk up to the stage and start talking without all this technology in the world, but we will get there, I guess.
We'll get there.
All right, so you're seeing my screen, yes, but not me, correct?
That is correct, Drew.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here. Thanks to the partnership for the invitation. As you might imagine, this is a conversation that I'm having multiple times every single day as we help clients navigate through this. And so my goal today is part inspiration and part information. I think we need the inspiration to take action, and then I want to give you some information on what action to take. So I originally called this getting to the other side, you know, this idea of all of us getting through the storm that we're going through right now and getting back to sort of calm waters. But honestly, in some ways, for us as business owners, it's not really a storm. It literally is that we are in. Oh, hang on. Now my computer's not advancing the slides. Hang on. There we go. We're actually in the calmest of waters, which means we can't move anywhere. And so I kind of want to retool the way we talk about this and basically say, here's the reality as a business owner is when there is no wind, we row. And, you know, for many businesses and nonprofits for the last couple of years, we've enjoyed some pretty profitable years in terms of dollars, volunteers, donations, whatever it may be. But, you know, 2018 and 2019, for most businesses and organizations, were pretty fruitful. And so, and in fact, when I talk to business owners, the first quarter of 2020, the common theme was we were going gangbusters. We were on track for a record year coming into March. And then all of a sudden, everything just stopped. And so literally, the wind was in our sails. We were moving along, and now there is no wind. And so I think the resourceful business owner or leader realizes that, and this is true, COVID, recession, 9/11, you know, new competitor in town. If you are a seasoned business leader, you know that when there is no wind, you row, and you just work a little harder to keep everything moving forward. And that's really the position that we're in today. So for those of you that aren't familiar with me, just so you know, I have been in agencies and running agencies for all of my adult life. My own agency, McClellan Marketing Group, is 25 this year, which seems astonishing to me. Many of you may be familiar with the work that I do with the Business Record. I've had a column there for almost 17 years. And then I write in a lot of places and I speak in a lot of places. But marketing is what I think about and what I do professionally and probably too often personally. I just can't help but be fascinated by it. So I am coming to you with many years of experience. So I think it starts, and this is sort of, I guess, the inspirational part of the message. I think recovery and new success comes with the acknowledgement and the embracing of the idea of that we will be fine, that our businesses will be fine. We're not going to be the same, but we're going to be fine. All of you have been successful for a while. You still offer something that people need or want. You obviously have huge motivation to figure this out and to find your way into a more fruitful and comfortable place to serve your clients or customers, and also to serve your employees, and naturally to take care of your own family. So a lot of motivation to get this right. And I want to remind all of you that this is not the new normal. Everyone keeps talking about new normal. We are not in new normal. This is still temporary abnormal. And, I think about after 9/11, there was a period of time where everything was so hard. And that's the period that we're in right now. But pretty quickly, we got to a place where, with some noted exceptions, I call them 9/11 twists to normal, like having to take your shoes off before you went through security in an airport. We did get back to what felt much more like normal. We weren't afraid. We were bold in our decision making, and we're going to get there again. And we just need to keep rowing to get there as quickly as we can. And honestly, here's the reality. If you don't get out there and you don't start marketing and you don't go back to doing business the way you did business prior to COVID, and I'm not talking about the functional how you do business. I'm not talking about masks, no mask, that kind of thing. I'm just talking about actually being out in the marketplace and offering what you have. If you don't do that, then you're just going to run out of time altogether. So the decision in some ways is, are you going to do it now? If not, are you going to do it in July? Are you going to wait till 2021? And the only difference is how many of your competitors are going to get out in front of you. So of course, I'm going to make the argument, and honestly, the data makes the argument, that marketing now will save your business. It will help you gain market share and reduce the timetable back to financial normalcy. So I think the only day that is better than today for you getting back on the marketing horse was yesterday. And I think every day that you delay, you just have to row harder for longer. So the data is sort of staggering in terms of how businesses perform in a recession. And, if you take the health risk and scare out of it, and we can talk about how that impacts your marketing in a minute. But if you take that out of the equation for a minute, this is a recession like we have seen before. And many businesses have survived and thrived through recessions. And they did it by consistently being out there, by telling their story well, and by really being in tune with what their audiences needed to hear. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So I honestly believe the biggest threat to our business right now is not COVID-19. I think it's fear. I think it's fear that makes us second guess ourselves. I think it's fear that is contagious, that when we feel that way, our employees or team members or teammates, depending on your role, catch that fear, and all of a sudden everybody is paralyzed. And right now, I think that's the biggest risk to our business, is this paralysis. For a while it was a forced paralysis in terms of everybody working from home. And, the first couple of weeks we were just in panic mode of how to survive and how to function and how to homeschool the kids at the same time you're taking client calls or whatever that is. But it is the fear that can and will kill us if we allow it. And so I think this all boils down to us making a decision, a simple decision. Am I and is my organization going to row like crazy to get back what we've lost, or are we going to sit quietly and wait for the wind? These are really our only two choices. Do I get back out there and do I conduct my business the way I know I should? Do I push that fear aside and take control over my business, my marketplace, my customers, my employees? Or do I sit and wait for something good to happen, for the wind to pick back up? And honestly, I know I make it sound like it's this simple either or choice, and I'm not suggesting that at all, but it is as simple and as difficult as that. I just have to decide. And so what I'm hoping is if you're here with us today, you have decided that it is time to either reinvigorate your marketing if you've let it flag for a little bit, or maybe it's time to pivot your marketing if you've never gone dark through COVID, but that you are ready to keep rowing. So I heard an interesting interview with Tom Peters, and he was saying that this is our defining moment as professionals, that how we have responded in the last couple months and how we behave in the next 2 or 3 months will define us professionally. And so this is sort of the last bit of my inspiration. The question is, how do you want to be defined? How do you want to show up as a business leader or owner in all of this? And then move forward with that in mind. So one of the things that you need to recognize is that as the leader of your organization, whether you own it or you are helping run it or you're a department head, you certainly serve in some sort of a leadership role. And everyone is watching you. And they are watching you to see how you are feeling, because they're going to take their mood off of yours. And by the way, this is not just the employees. This is your customers. This is your prospective customers. And the truth is, all of us are wrestling this cocktail of emotion, this fear and uncertainty. Everyone has suffered some sort of a loss through all of this. We're horribly frustrated in terms of just what was supposed to be in 2020. We're frustrated that we're stuck at home more than we want to be. We're frustrated that we're not able to get out and do the things we want to do in the way we want to do them. But also in that mix is hope. It's kind of a reluctant hope. It's like I really hope, but. And I think there's also varying degrees of gratitude. I think depending on the day and depending on people's circumstances, it's not all doom and gloom. It is this weird cocktail of emotion that we have to deal with every audience that we talk to. And the audiences that matter right now to you are, you have 3 critical audiences. And I put them in this order on purpose. It is the employees, it is the customers, and it is your prospective customers. If you don't communicate well and often with the employees, honestly, the other 2 audiences don't matter very much. And so I think you need to start with the employees and think about how you want to show up for them, what you want to be saying to them, how you want to convey your emotions, your attitude, your vision, and then also how does that roll out to customers and prospective customers? So I would think about it this way. When I was thinking about what kind of a tone we need to be taking in our marketing right now, I was thinking about, I have a almost 27-year-old daughter. And when she was a baby and she was inconsolable, the only thing I could do to calm her was to whisper in her ear. And I would either whisper nonsense, or I would talk to her, or I would sort of sing whisper, but that consistent and calming whisper, right? While I physically was sort of holding her close, which I know is a metaphor for us in terms of business, but we are all seeking calming voices right now. And you can be that for your team, your customers, and your potential customers. You can metaphorically sort of hold them tight and talk to them in a way that is calming. And I think that is what they're looking for right now. I think they're going to be attracted to that. And I think that's the voice that we need to have for the next couple of months as we sort of behave our way out of the sort of lockdown season that we've all been in. Right now, we are absolutely in the information stage. So nobody wants to be sold to right now. Our job is to make them feel safe in coming back to us. And that's not just physically safe, it's safe in all the ways. And we're going to talk about that in a second. People desperately want to go back to what you offer, but they need some help in the courage department. So the more consistently, and when I say consistent, I mean that both in terms of frequency, but also consistency and tone. The more you can just have this calming, consistent presence while you give them the information that they're looking for. And you're doing it in a way that feels safe and welcoming and understanding and empathetic, the better. And I think one of the interesting twists to this for all of us is we're not used to having a customer base that is afraid. And I think that on every level, I'm afraid to spend money. I'm afraid to leave my house. I'm afraid other people will have masks on and will make fun of me if I don't. I'm afraid that people will not have masks on and infect me. I just think people are walking balls of fear right now. And so the more we can calm those fears by being very direct, by being very consistent, by being very calm, the more they're going to be drawn to us and be ready to engage with us, whatever that is, whether that's coming into your restaurant or placing an order or having a face-to-face meeting. If you're on the B2B side, whatever it is, the more calm and consistent you can be, and the more you can acknowledge, probably not in an sort of outgoing way, but just in the way you talk to them way, the more you can acknowledge that they're afraid, the quicker they're going to get over that fear. Hopefully by now you have channels, and by now I mean this is way before COVID. Hopefully way before COVID, you have channels to reach each audience. So you already have ways to talk to your employees, your existing customers, and your prospective customers. And so the first thing you need to do is, after you've made the decision that you're going to market, the next thing you need to think about are, where are conversations happening now? Where are these people gathering? Where will they see your message? So for some of you, it may be face-to-face, for example, with your employees, even if that's on video. For many of you, it's going to be email. One of the things that has certainly proven out during COVID is the power of email. That while we are absolutely being inundated with it, the companies that are doing it well are seeing huge open rates, huge ROIs on that email. So email is a great one. Maybe snail mail, maybe that you're actually tucking something in the mail to people. Could be social, paid advertising, might be in-store signage. I know a lot of people right now are driving up to restaurants and stores looking for signage that even just says if they're open or not. And then ask yourself, what else? Like, what are the channels? How did you talk to people prior to COVID where they're used to seeing you? And that's not to say you can't or shouldn't add new channels, but make sure that you are showing up where they expect to see you. And then there are three, I think, big sort of buckets where we need to be spending most of our time in our communications. Again, remember, right now, hard selling isn't playing very well, and I don't think it's going to play very well for a little bit. But here are the big three. Helpful. So asking yourself, what does this audience, employees, customers, or prospective customers, what do they need right now, and how can I help them with that? In some cases, it's helping them do it on a DIY basis because they're not ready to leave their house. In other cases, it is making things more accessible to them. It may be doing more video, more tutorials, whatever it is for your business. How can I be helpful right now? How can I stay front and center? And how can I, through my actions, how can I demonstrate that I genuinely care about these people and what they're going through, and I really want to be of service? My business wants to be of service. And then right now, as I said, we are absolutely in the information stage. So what are they worried about? Everyone's worried about safety. Everyone's worried about not only their own safety, but how do I do this? Like, do I have to wear a mask to come into your establishment? You're coming to my office for a meeting. What are you expecting from me in terms of social distancing or face masks or hand sanitizer? Even, are we open? And by the way, just a marketing 101 reminder, just because you've said it once does not mean that your audience saw it, heard it, remembered it. So remember, it takes 8 to 13 times for the same message to permeate through to your audience. So repetition is your friend right now. So especially around this informative stuff. So safety issues, are you open? What's different? Like, Mike and I were talking before you guys all came in the room about how some of the local restaurants are handling, like you have to wait in your car and then they'll text you when they have a table. That's not normal. That's not what we're used to. So helping people understand, because of COVID, what's different about how you interact. Are you having any trouble getting products into your warehouse? Am I going to expect a delay in delivery, whether it's a service or a product? Those kinds of informational things. This is not sexy marketing, it's helpful marketing, right? So this does not require a huge creative concept. It doesn't, it's just about reaching out and talking. And then the third bucket in this, where we should really be communicating right now, is us standing up and saying, you know what, we care about this community. And that could be a physical community like Des Moines. It could be a community in terms of an industry. And here's how we're helping. And a great thing to do in this is, if they can participate in helping, inviting them to help you help, and to be a part of something. Because you know what, one of the truths that has come out of the last couple of months is people are eager to be of service. They want to help people who are in a tough situation. They want to help others because it makes us feel better about our own circumstance. So the more you can engage them, again, whether it's employees or customers or prospective customers, and invite them to share in the however you're serving your community, the better. So that was what we communicate. And here's some thoughts about how we need to be communicating right now. It is super important that you are sincere and transparent. This is not the time for double speak or fine print or what we call at our agency weasel words. So you need to be very upfront about the reality of what you're offering, how people engage with you, and if you're going to express emotion, right? You want to be emotionally in tune. That also has to be sincere. And when I say in tune, many of you probably saw the YouTube video where they grabbed the ads of about 30 different brands, and they all looked and sound exactly the same. And the formula was the same. It was sort of somber music, a deep man's voice, talking in low tones and slowly. I'm not saying that. I think we're past that. In fact, I think that now is almost an irritant, like the words unprecedented or challenging. Nobody wants to hear those words in marketing speak anymore. I think we're over it. But it does mean you have to be sensitive to where your audience is at right now. So you do need to be emotionally in tune. You just don't need to dramatize it, right? You just need to acknowledge it in a way that is really true to your brand. So I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, when you think about it, a lot of this is really understanding your brand. So how Raygun would express that they're emotionally in tune and being sincere and transparent is probably pretty different than how Principal would do it. And you've got to be really clear about your organization's brand and sort of what you're known for caring about, and make sure that you express your concern and your acknowledgement of the circumstance through that lens. People are also looking for, in terms of how we communicate, they're looking for a lot of flexibility right now. They're looking for payment terms and things that they have not typically asked for. It might be delivery models, but you need to be thinking about, how does my audience want to engage with me? And how can we best serve them as a business? And is that a temporary thing, or is that going to be a permanent change? That's one of the informational things. So for a lot of retail and restaurants, we've all been grabbing things sort of at curbside. So a lot of people are wondering, are you going to keep doing that? Can I still pull up to Best Buy and have them bring out my purchase? Or am I now going to be asked to go into the store? So I think all of that is got to be how we communicate. And I think, and this is one of the things I love about being in the Midwest and specifically Des Moines, I think this is a time for us to demonstrate our generosity. And I don't mean by giving stuff away for free. I don't mean that. I don't mean that, you have to, everything has to be on sale. What I'm really talking about is more in the tone of how you communicate, that you are generous in terms of sharing your attitude and your spirit, and that you genuinely let your audience know, again, employees, customers, or prospective customers, you genuinely let them know that you care, how they're doing, how you can help them, how they're coping. I think people are kind of rubbed raw right now. And so they need to know that we are actually genuinely, authentically caring about them and want to be of service as best we can. I also think, and we'll talk about this in the webinar that we're doing next week, I also think you have to be careful about customers taking advantage of this time, and you've got to have some pretty firm policies in place, and you need to communicate those as well. So one of the things I want to remind you about is you should have, again, back to that consistent and calming message, same message, but in many places. So how can you help them today? Asking yourself, what are they wondering? What information would get them to buy or buy again if they're a repeat customer? And how are we helping others? And how can they participate? And then think about all the channels in which you communicate. And ask yourself, how can I slice and dice this message to share it in a lot of places, same message over and over, again, 8 to 13 times. But how do I do it in different places in different ways? And so think about it as, you've got a piece of meat, and in my example, it's a steak, and how you prepare it and how you serve it depends on how you cut it, right? So identify your workhorse channel. That's the big piece of steak. That's where you communicate most effectively with your customers. And then how do you slice and dice and repackage that message for every channel? And one of the key things that you need to be thinking about is you have to have one central place, and for most of you, it's going to be your website, where the whole story exists. And always, no matter where you're communicating, social, blog post, email, be sure of directing people back to where they can get the whole story or the whole piece of information. And one of the things, and this is, again, a marketing 101 thing, but super important right now, one of them is do not make it hard for us as your audience to find or understand the information. Now is not the time to tuck it where I have to click 7 times on your website to get to it. Give me clear navigation, drive me to exactly what I want to know, and make sure that you are repeating it on a regular basis. But think about this slicing and dicing. One of the things I think is always intimidating about marketing is the idea of there are so many channels, and how in the world am I going to communicate in all of these places? I'm a department of 1, or I'm a department of 3, or we have a small agency as a partner, whatever that is. And so much of marketing today is creating a core message and then repackaging it, or as in my illustration, kind of re-preparing it or slicing and dicing it for different audiences, for different lengths of time, for different sort of tones. And, I can do a steak on the grill. I can do fondue or a stew. I can do a burger, but it's all basically the same thing. I'm just sort of repackaging it. So right now, that's sort of what I believe the recipe is for the next, I would say, at least 60 days of, being informative, being clear about your intentions, being as helpful as you can be, which I'm sure many of you have been doing ever since COVID hit, and making sure that you're communicating over and over and over again the same message while keeping the emotional spirit of your audience in mind. I think the biggest mistake you can make is not marketing at all. I think the second biggest mistake is marketing in a tone deaf way that turns off your audience. All right. I promised I would keep it to 30 minutes. I have done that. Here's a million ways you can get a hold of me, but most important, I would love to spend the rest of the time answering your questions.
So Drew, this is Mike. Go ahead and take a look in the chat.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and go back to you guys seeing me. I'm gonna share video. All right, and you're gonna see me squint because my old eyes can't read this tiny little type. Yeah, so you know what, Anna, I think you're right. I think we've seen some amazing marketing coming out in the last couple months, and I think you're seeing people recognizing emotional moments, particularly around how we're coping in terms of the losses, the weddings that couldn't happen, the graduations that couldn't happen, all of those sort of things. And I think you're seeing brands sort of rally around that. I think it's also challenging because Doritos can afford to do an ad that's just about graduation and all of that. They're not, because they don't have to really tell us a lot about their chips to get us to buy their chips, right? They're just reminding us we're out there. I think for most of us, that's a luxury we don't have because we're not a brand like Doritos. Doesn't mean you can't find ways to weave those kind of messages in. But for most of you, your marketing is more utilitarian than just brand building. And so you've got to mix the core messages you need to get around how we're doing business, what we still have for sale, how we can service you as a customer, or hey, employee, here's what we're doing, all of that. And weave in a little bit of brand, but it can't, for most of us, be just about brand. Mentioned help in engaging customers. Can you share some examples you've seen or ways to engage customers help? Yeah, so, I've seen a lot of local businesses do some amazing things where they are doing food drives, or they're raising money for a charity, or they are celebrating somebody's achievement inside their organization or inside their customer base. I think there are a lot of ways to do that. And I honestly, I think we are at the stage now where most people who are in a position to buy what you sell, or your employees, I think that's another, we keep talking about customers, but I'm telling you, the audience right now that matters most to you is your own employee base. And the more you can invite them to participate with you, the more you can invite them to help you as a company take care of the community, that those warm and fuzzies that we're going to get from both our employees and our customers will benefit us dramatically in terms of positioning us as a business that is not just about making the money, but that we really care about our audience, whoever it is, again, employees, community, customers, all of that. So I think there's a lot of things you can do. I think you can certainly think about what it is you do every day. And is there a way to give a part or a piece of that, or to teach people who are not ready to leave the house? I've seen like a lot of chefs doing videos teaching people how to cook the signature dish of that restaurant. Does that mean they're not going to come into the restaurant to eat that signature dish when they feel safe? Absolutely not. Of course they're going to. But now you're creating this bond between them because now they're trying to make your fill in the blank. And you're helping them create a happy experience at home when a lot of people are struggling to create happy experiences at home. What is the best way you've seen an employer celebrate a win with their team in the remote environment? Yeah, so I've seen employers get really creative. So, I don't know about you guys, but we're all zoomed out to death. I've been reading all kinds of articles about the stress that Zoom creates because we're on 24/7. We're looking at each other. We have eye contact. And I've been doing a lot of all-day Zoom meetings, and they're exhausting. So absolutely, you can celebrate on Zoom in a team meeting or things like that. But I've seen a lot of people kind of use old-fashioned methods, like everyone's home, right? So sending a card to everyone, a thank you note to everyone. I had one client that had cupcakes delivered to everybody's house in celebration. So I think there are a lot of ways. I don't know why as humans we always celebrate around food, but we do, right? I think there are a lot of ways to do that. I had another client who sent everyone, after a really grueling week, sent everybody an Amazon gift card for $25 and said, you know what, find a book or a movie or something that just helps you unplug, that you enjoy. Don't spend this on anything work related, but just treat yourself or you and your family to something. Just want to thank you for, all that you've done this week to take care of our clients. So what other questions do you guys have for me? One of the things that a lot of businesses are enjoying is the more engagement that they're having with customers or clients or their audience right now. So, email open rates have never been higher. Social media interaction never been higher. So take advantage of that. Really interact with your customers or your agency. You should interact with them too, but your employees. This is an opportunity where people are so hungry for connection. So take advantage of that and create genuine, real connection with the audiences that matter. I'm not saying take advantage of that. What I'm saying is normally they don't want to give you the time of day, and they are willing to give you the time of day right now. So whether that's donors, whether that's customers, whether that's employees, they want to have interaction right now. So take advantage of that. Hosting an open mic, Q&A, doing Facebook Live where people can engage with you, posing questions on your social channels, whatever it may be, take full advantage of that because it's going to go away, right? When we get back to sort of whatever new normal is, people are going to get busy again. They're not going to be sitting at home. They're not going to be in front of their computer all day. And so take advantage of it while you can. Could that work with customers too without giving out free services? You mean the giving of gifts? Sure. I've had a lot of clients who have sent muffin baskets or thank you notes. A lot of people are handwriting thank you notes to their best customers and sending them by snail mail, or sending them a book or something else that you think they would enjoy that somehow relates to your business. Absolutely, it will work with customers. It's just about creating connection, which is really what marketing is all about, is creating connection, right? Calling someone on the phone, no video, is very positive. Oh yeah. Not only is it the intimacy of the phone call, but it's I don't have to sit down for this, right? I don't know about you guys, but I am so happy when I can stand up for an hour. I'm elated. When someone says, hey, let's not do Zoom, let's have a phone call, I get a little tear in my eye because it means I can walk around my house or I can go out for a walk and I'm not glued to the computer screen. So yeah, phone calls are very hot and sexy right now. So absolutely. And by the way, those phone calls, and I know you all do this anyway, but I'm just going to say it. Those phone calls start with how are you doing? How's your family? Again, we have the opportunity. Good marketing always creates intimacy. But we have the opportunity now to really dial that up and to really create genuine connections. Again, nothing fake about this, nothing inauthentic about this, but just to be able to say to somebody, how are you doing? I know you had a son that was supposed to graduate from high school. How's he doing? Is he super disappointed? How did the high school handle that? A lot of people are grieving something. I think everybody's grieving something in this season. So the more you can show up as a human being first and then take care of business, the better. That moment creates a bond in a relationship that doesn't go away when COVID goes away. And it's also, quite honestly, just being a good human being. You mentioned it takes 8 to 13 times for your audience to be fully informed or aware. Is this via multiple communication outlets or specific to one? No, I think this is why the multi-channel media plan has always been more effective than just being sort of on a one-trick pony. Is the more the same message can come at us in different ways, and ideally through different senses. So I'm seeing it visually, I'm seeing it in words, I'm hearing it. Right now, we can't use most of our other senses, but for right now, the more variety. Now, when I say the more variety, I'm not saying deliver the same message once on 37 channels. But what I am saying is have 3 or 4 channels where you are consistently present and deliver that same message, again, in the slicing and dicing model I showed you, but the same message and the same information through all of those channels. And yeah, 8 to 13 times before they even notice, in a lot of cases, you're talking to them, which is greatly disheartening, but it's the truth. It's just, when you think about it, we are bombarded every day with marketing messages, and we're pretty good at tuning them out. There's a great story about a couple who was at home on the weekend, and on Saturday their refrigerator died. And the Sunday paper came, and there was a circular from one of the large department stores, and the wife ran into the den where the husband was sitting and said, "You won't believe it, but there is a sale on refrigerators this weekend." But you know what? There's a sale on refrigerators every weekend. She just didn't need one, so she had tuned it out for all of those other times. And so we have to remember that we are at all times, probably now more than ever, but at all times talking to a distracted audience, which means we have to step up how often we say it. And here's a litmus test. By the time you're so sick of your message that you could scream, that's about when they're starting to notice you're talking to them. So that's the absolute time for you to keep sharing whatever that information is or that message is. All right, what other questions do you have for me? You bet, happy to be helpful.
Any other questions for Drew?
So I have a question for you guys. What are you gonna do? Like, how are you gonna start getting your message back out there? And how are you gonna do it in a way that your audience is actually excited to hear from you? What is your advice for economic development marketing during these times? So I think this is all about being helpful, Jay. I think this is you guys doing what you've been doing, creating resources that just help everybody get back on their feet financially, because this is you demonstrating that you are the champion of business in this community and that you are here for everybody and that you have resources and you can bring people together in a way that nobody else can. And I think you are, right now, you have to be their champion and their savior. You just need to keep doing what you're doing. Now is not the time. And the other thing is tell stories. That we didn't really talk about that, but telling stories of how you are currently helping other employees, customers, prospective customers, how they are getting ahead, whatever that means based on your business, because of the work you're doing together. People need examples. Right now, it's almost like people need permission to be out and about, to be doing business as usual. So the more examples you can show them that they're not the first person to walk into a restaurant, or they're not the first person to ask for a meeting with you, the more you can tell stories about how you're helping other people will give people courage. Remember, we said that's one of the things they need from us right now is courage. We'll give them courage to step out and re-engage with you. Matt says he's making reactivation calls and need to be a bit more helpful. Yeah, informative. Okay. Yeah, so the other thing too, Matt, you might think about is, are there some tools? Like, are there, I don't know, checklists or whatever it may be, but do you have resources while you're making these calls, you can say, hey, we've put together, right now, everyone is trying to sort of figure out how to get back to business. So anything you have that is a way for them not to have to reinvent the wheel. So, you know, Matt, as part of your call to say, you know what, we put together a PDF of the 10 XYZs that employees are struggling with right now, or whatever it is. Would it be okay if I sent that to you? That's a great way now, instead of having one conversation, now you get to have two. And odds are they're going to respond with either a thank you or a question about what you ever sent them. And you are going to be able to keep engaging them in conversation, and more important, keep helping them get to where they want to go. Because ultimately, that's what every business does. Our goal as a business is to help our customers or clients get to where they want to go. Whether that's I'm helping them make a donation because they want to have a legacy in their family. I'm helping them, get out and have an evening where they can just forget about things and enjoy and laugh and have a glass of wine. I'm helping them figure out how to serve their own customers better. Whatever that is, we're all in the business of helping our clients, customers, and employees get where they want to go. So any tool or trick or checklist that you could put together to accelerate that process would be very welcome right now. Anything that can make the purchase or install or decision process easier? Absolutely, right. And by the way, pushy right now, not cool. So teeing up what you have to offer and then really stepping back and saying, you know what, we are here. When you're ready to move forward, we're here. If that's today, let's go. If it's not for another 6 months, that's okay. If it's all right, I'm going to stay in touch with you in this way, in this helpful way, while you're waiting to make a decision or until you feel safe making a decision. But now is not the time to press, right? Because again, all that does is trigger people's anxiety and fear. And honestly, I don't think it's ever a great way to sell, but right now it's a really lousy way to sell. All right.
Drew, I'm curious. I got one more question. I'm curious, if you owned a retail shop, let's say in Valley Junction, East Village, the strip mall, whatever, and you don't have a absolute need product, it's more of a passion buy or something that makes you feel good. How would you go about? Give me just a couple of thoughts you'd be doing right now with that store.
Yeah, I'd open up. So one of the things that we know from Asia, because remember, they're about 3 months ahead of us in all of this, is as Asia started to reopen, the two places where consumers spent money was on polar opposites, necessities and indulgences, right? So we have all suffered for the last 2 months, whether you've loved being at home or not, the idea of not being able to do the things that you like to do in the way you want to do them. We all think, whether we say it out loud or not, we kind of deserve a reward, right? And so for some people, the reward might be going out to dinner. For other people, it may be going to the yarn shop because I haven't been able to browse patterns and yarn and I don't know enough about knitting to carry that any further, but you understand what I'm saying. So I would open up, but I would communicate that it's okay to just come in and browse. It's okay to come in and talk about your latest project or whatever. If you don't want to come in, we're doing videos of all the new lamps we have, and we will be happy to bring one out to the curb for you. I would be finding ways to bring people in, literally or figuratively, back to the things that they love. Because that's one of the sacrifices we've all made for the last 2 months, is we haven't been able to do a lot of the things that we love to do. And for a lot of people, it is going into a passion store and participating in seeing what's new, talking to the shopkeeper about what's going on, sharing stories about that passion. So yeah, I would find a way to be open, even if it's restricted hours. Even if you think your foot traffic isn't going to justify fully staffing the store, maybe you're only open from 10 to 2, And then obviously you have to communicate that over and over and over and over again, because you don't want someone driving up at 3 and being annoyed. Or, you know, maybe you're allowing people to make appointments to come in a way that they feel is safer from a social distance. But you can't, it's pretty tough to make any money if you don't open the door. And so I would figure out a way to open up and to encourage and invite people back in.
All right, well, Drew, I want to thank you so much for joining us today for this session. I really appreciate it. I know people got a lot out of this. For those on the call, thanks again for participating. We will share the information of this program on the partnership's website, including the deck that Drew provided today. And again, you can find that at dsmpartnership.com/DSM Forward. So with that, Drew, thank you. And to everyone, have a wonderful day.
You bet. And guys, if you have questions, you've got my email in a couple places. I think Mike put it on the front of the deck. I put it on the back of the deck. So please do not be shy about reaching out if I can be helpful. If you have a question about your specific circumstance that you didn't feel comfortable asking in a group setting, I'm answering email all day long. So I'm happy to answer your email, or if you want, I'm happy to have a phone conversation because I can do that standing up. So don't be shy about reaching out if I can help.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.